Hello, my name is Michael, and I am your Texan English teacher. Okay, today we are right here on number 6. So we started with the introduction to the vocabulary. We worked with the verb to be. We did an introduction into conversation. We learned verbs dealing with food. We talked about food and drinks. And now today we're going to make some observations about verbs in English. Okay, and this is dealing specifically with the simple present tense. Okay, now let's take a look. Here are the same verbs that we learned in our vocabulary, all of them with the exception of to be, because we already conjugated to be. And what are we looking at? You say, I taste, we taste, you taste, they taste, he tastes, she tastes, it tastes. Here in this case, we're looking specifically right here, the S that is added on when we're dealing with these subjects right here, he, she, or it. Now, taste, the verb, can mean saber, si eso sabe rico, that tastes delicious. It tastes delicious, but if it's a person, it can mean probar. So, ¿quieres probar esa sopa? Okay. Do you want to taste this soup? Okay. I tasted the soup. Yo probé la sopa. And so you can use taste cuando pruebas algo, okay, with your tongue. Okay, so that's the idea. You use your tongue. When you use your tongue to see what it tastes like, you're tasting it, okay? So, taste can mean probar as well. So if I taste something, es porque lo pruebo, okay? I try it to see what it tastes like. So I taste it. And when we're dealing with the negative, we have don't. Now, there are contractions. Do not is don't, and does not is doesn't. So that's what we're seeing here is the contraction of when we make it negative. I don't taste, okay? We don't taste, you don't taste, they don't taste. But then again, you see the S is right here. The S is not right here. So when you're dealing with he, she, or it, you put the S on the verb do. So do becomes does. But we do not add the S onto the verb here because we already have the S with does. So he doesn't taste, she doesn't taste, it doesn't taste. So we can see two things here. We can see how to form the negative for most verbs. This did not work with to be. When we did to be, you added not to be. I am not, he is not, they are not. But here we add the word not onto the auxiliary verb do and does. So it says he doesn't taste. And so we've learned how to form the negative. And then here, when you use the simple present tense and you have he, she, or it, you have to add an S on for most verbs, not all verbs. We're going to see when you have a modal that you will not add the S on. So here we see the S again, and we are working with he, she, it. He eats, she eats, it eats. But here when you say I eat, we eat, you eat, they eat, no S. And again, we see the S here, okay? We do not see the S here. Right? Okay, so that's what we're looking at. I don't eat, we don't eat, you don't eat, they don't eat, he doesn't eat, she doesn't eat, it doesn't eat. Again, let's look at it with drink. Again, you see that the S is right here with he, she, and it. Okay, he drinks, she drinks, it drinks. I drink, we drink, you drink, they drink. And again, you say, I don't drink, we don't drink, you don't drink, they don't drink. And here we see the S is right here. He doesn't drink. She doesn't drink. It doesn't drink. Okay? Now here's the verb like. Okay? Like, I like, we like, you like, they like, he likes, she likes, it likes. So we see it, he, she, and it. Okay? And then you see doesn't like right here. Okay. Me gusta, nos gusta. Okay. Te gusta, a ellos les gusta. A él le gusta, a ella le gusta, a eso le gusta. Okay, so let's look over here. We see want, same thing. Okay, I want, we want, you want, they want, he wants, she wants, it wants. Okay, and again, it's this exact same subjects. He, she, and it, right? And again, you see doesn't, so here. I don't want, we don't want, you don't want, they don't want, he doesn't want, she doesn't want, it doesn't want. Okay? Quiero, queremos, quieres, quieren, quiere, él quiere, ella quiere. Okay? And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a minute, dealing with gender and English. I smell, we smell, you smell, they smell. He smells, she smells, it smells. Now, important thing about the verb smell is it can be active or it can be, in a sense, like passive in a sense, where it can be that I am producing the smell, or it can be because I'm using my nose to see what it smells like. So, I smell you means that you are producing the smell and I'm using my nose to know what you smell like. But if I say I smell good, then I am producing the smell. And so the verb can be used in both ways. You understand based on the context. That smells delicious. Whatever that is, probably some food, maybe a hamburger or a steak or pork or a salad or liquor, you know that object, whatever it is producing the smell. But if it's a person that has a nose, or a dog, or something that has a nose that is capable of using it, you look at the context. If you say, for example, the dog smells horrible, then you know that the dog is producing the smell. It's probably a dirty dog. But if you say the dog is smelling to see where his owner went, then the dog is using its nose. Okay, so if a person smells horrible, or if a person smells good, or if a person smells like something, like they have been cooking or something like that, you say, well, this person smells like onions, this person smells like this. And you know that the person is producing the smell. But if the person says, I smell something cooking, I smell something cooking, and then you know that the person is using his or her nose in order to know that something is producing a smell. Now here we see he doesn't, right? Same thing, okay? Always he, she, and it. Now, notice, this is where I'm going to get to, is that the modal verb would, there's no S here. There's no S on neither one of them. You say, he would like, she would like, it would like. You do not say, he would's like, or he would likes. No. So there is no S when it's a modal verb would. And you see, we don't use don't. See, we don't, doesn't, and the other verbs. But over here, when I say would not, now the negation is right here. Now, would with not has the contraction wouldn't. Okay? So this is I wouldn't like, we wouldn't like, you wouldn't like, they wouldn't like, he wouldn't like. she wouldn't like, it wouldn't like. Now, if you say it really fast, you'll notice that English speakers, when they speak very quickly, that a lot of times the T doesn't get pronounced. So say, I wouldn't like, or we wouldn't like, or you wouldn't like. And so you'll notice that the T sort of disappears in the pronunciation sometimes. But if somebody's very careful with their pronunciation, I wouldn't like is obviously perfectly acceptable and probably technically more correct. Okay, so here we see the idea of using verbs in English in the simple present tense. And one of the things that we need to make clear here is the he, she, it. In English, gender is very scientific. A lot of times people say, well, he, she is for people, and then it is for animals. And I used to tell people that too. So it's very common to tell people that, but I started thinking about it one day, and I was listening to people speak, and I realized, you know what, we do use, and I do too, I use he and she for animals as well. So it's not completely correct to say that it cannot be, or that he or she cannot be used for animals, and that you have to use it for animals. We do use it for animals sometimes, but we can also use he or she. Why? He or she refers to the biological function of a species to be able to reproduce sexually as the masculine sex or the feminine sex. So if a species is capable of reproducing sexually, technically it is correct to use he or she, like a dog or a cat or a lion, especially if it's very obvious. It's a lot of times when we don't know what the sex of the animal is, or we don't care. So if you love your dog, your pet, you'll probably say he if it's a male dog, or she if it's a female dog. But if you're looking at an ant, or a bird, or a beetle, or a snake, you probably don't care what it is, even though it has a gender. So you just say it. Makes it a lot easier. But if it's a bacteria, obviously, then you just it, because it doesn't even have a gender. So you can use he or she for animals, but it is also acceptable with animals, depending upon your familiarity with the animal. Also, we tend to personify, in English we personify things that we love. Some crazy guys out there love their truck so much they will call the truck she, even though the truck is an inanimate object. And say, she's a beauty, isn't she? And it's talking about a truck, okay, not even a person. It has no capability to reproduce sexually, but still say, well, she, simply because that person loves his or her truck, okay? So usually crazy men, usually women don't do that. So he or she can be used also to personify things. So E.T., the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial is very friendly and very lovable. We love E.T. So people will probably say he, even though we don't know what its gender really is. But when you're dealing with a monstrous extraterrestrial, then you may say it because you want it to be less human. Okay, so that is our lesson for today. We're going to stop right there. We made some important observations about verbs in English. Okay, and the only thing left for us to do with lesson 1 is in the next lesson, we will practice everything that we have learned up to this point. We've learned vocabulary dealing with food. We've learned verbs dealing with food. We learned to be. We learned adjectives dealing with food. We learned some adverbs. Okay, and we're just going to pull it all together and do some practice in the next lesson. Okay, that'll be it for today. Goodbye.